Okie dokie boys and girls, it is day 16 of calisthenics endurance and today we have another leg workout. Now, during this morning's run, I had a bit of a speed practice as well where I did 8 intervals of 1 minute, trying to run faster, and despite also ice laying on the road and being slippery, I just noticed that I couldn't really get my speed going, and that's because I was feeling stiff. So I think I'm kind of discovering that for running, having mobility is not a bad thing, and of course I don't have to go overboard, but just some basic mobility is going to be necessary. And you know, that brings me to kind of the topic of how you can use exercises in different ways. You can use the same exercise in different ways. So I'm doing my leg workouts right now in function to improve for running, right? I do it for running. I want to get better at running. That's why I'm doing these leg workouts. So of course I want to maintain my strength, but if I can adjust the way that I do the exercises for running, that's a very good thing. So if I'm going to be running the 70-kilometer Shimanami cycling road, of course, you know, I have to make sure that my body stays healthy, and I'm starting to realize that perhaps mobility is a part of this as well. And when it comes to leg exercises that I've been doing, you know, the pistol squat is an exercise that's very important, but I've always done it with, you know, this kind of thingy under my heel. You know, I put my heel in a higher place because I am not mobile, but perhaps that is something I should start working on. So today what I'm going to focus on is mobility. I'm going to do the same weight, the same reps as last time, but I'm going to see if I can kind of progress in mobility, keep myself really upright, and basically make the movement smooth. And then perhaps I'll add a mobility routine in the night, which I won't record, but you know, just some stretches and perhaps just some isometric holds in the pistol squat position to basically make my body more mobile so that I have access to my power. You know, I have a lot of power, you know, when it comes to like being a runner, right? Most runners don't squat 130 kilos or don't squat 60 kilos on one leg. I don't also do that at the moment because I've gotten weaker, but you get what I'm saying. I have this advantage, but I'm not able to make use of it as much because I'm not mobile. And I feel like, you know, just you don't have to change your exercise. You can just use the same exercise in many different ways, you know, according to your goals. So in that sense, you can also be creative. You don't always have to be creative thinking about new exercises and new amount of reps and new amount of sets or rest times or pyramid sets and this and that. You can just think about how you can change the exercise you're doing itself in order to get the results that you want. You know, it's different for everyone. I'm not saying that everyone should focus on the mobility aspect of the pistol squat, because guess what? Some people just want to horse cock and want to lift some heavy weight, and then you focus on efficiency of your movement so that you can lift more weight, right? But in my case, now I'm doing it for running. I'm going to see if I can make the movement here as smooth as possible. And that's going to be the first part of the workout, you know. So 3 sets of 5, and then we head outside for some Nordic rolls. Alright, so that's it for the pistol squats. And did they feel smooth? No, they didn't, but that's perhaps exactly why I need to progress in them, because last time when I was training, when I found out like, hey, I need to train in function of my running, I still need to progress, I don't need to just maintain, right? I figured, well, I'll just progress in the weight very slowly. And so I was thinking to myself, like, I add 1 rep to 1 set every training, and then once I'm done with that, I add 2 kilos and I start over. But if you think about that, that's upping the weight once every 3 weeks. If I do it for an entire year, that's 17 kilos or 17 times that I add weight. That's 34 kilos. That would mean that I'm doing 3 sets of 5 with 60 kilos at the end of the year, which is not only insane progress, right? That's way too fast, But also you have to think, like, is it necessary for running? The answer is no. You don't see a marathon runner trying to squat 60 kilos on one leg because he doesn't need it. Of course they squat, but they do it lightly, they do it explosively, they do it in a different manner for the purpose of running. And I feel like I should maybe more so aim to progress in that direction, try to squat with more, like I said, with a smooth movement, with more like mobility as like in the intention, or perhaps more like explosiveness and stuff like that. But perhaps I should try and move away from the thought process that only moving up in weight or reps is progress. And that's something that's going to be very difficult, because reps, sets, rest time, weight, it's very tangible. You know when you're progressing because you rested for 5 seconds less, you added weight, you added a rep, right? It's very easy to understand. While when it comes to like mobility stuff, it's like kind of progressing in the planche, where you have better form now, so you progressed, but you don't know how much you progressed, because it's something that you look at, right? It's not something that you can really measure. You can't measure form, you can't measure how smooth a pistol squat feels. You can kind of gauge it, but you cannot like actually feel it. You cannot actually put it into numbers, which is what I tend to want to do, which is also, I guess, why I ego lift so much. But anyway, that's it for the pistol squats today. Quite happy with how they went. Now let's head outside for some Nordic curls. My side is feeling better, so I hope I can do a couple reps unassisted without pain. Let's go. Yes, I think we're good to go. All right. Yes. Finally. All right, no pain at all. And that's the first set. Usually when it comes to this injury in particular, I feel like the later sets feel better. So very positive news, and I'm just gonna do 3 sets of 5. Because when I think about these Nordic curls as well, of course, they give me hamstring strength and calf strength and tendon strength. I should put on the rest time, which is coming in handy for running. But when it comes to the purpose of running, right, being able to do even one Nordic curl is enough strength, way more than enough strength to run, You don't need a lot more. You see NFL players doing this exercise as well. They sprint and stuff, but I don't want to sprint, I want to run longer distances. So I don't need to improve in reps. I don't need to improve in sets. Instead, what I can do to make this exercise for the purpose of my running is to just learn to control it more, because I do bounce a little bit off the floor still. And if I can control the negative completely, I feel like that will, give me strength in a greater range of motion, which is going to be beneficial to the running as well. But 2 sets more, let's go. I'm very happy. Alright, so that's it for today's workout, and there is this one particular comment that I've been getting a lot lately, which I think I have to address, and that's the comment saying that Nordic curl is bad for your knees. It's bad for your knees, your tendons will snap, your kneecaps will snap, everything will snap, and you will be dead. That's basically how people look at this exercise, and I really want to address it, because for me the Nordic curl is an exercise that I started doing after I actually tore a tendon, you know. I tore my ligament, my ACL in the knee completely, and I started doing this exercise afterwards as a rehab exercise. It was provided to me by a physiotherapist. And so I don't think that the Nordic roll is bad for your knees. I think, in fact, it's good for your knees. And I think the reason people look at this exercise and basically say it's bad for you is the same way they look at the bench and say it's bad for you. Yes, the bench is bad for your shoulders if you don't do it correctly, if you do it too much, if you start neglecting the form. In the same way, even like rehab exercises, like a rotator cuff exercise, is going to be bad for you if you do it too much and if you do it in the incorrect way. So if you do a movement controlled, which I admit I don't always do, but if you do a movement in a controlled way, the only thing that it can do is make you stronger, right? Because if you control the movement, you're automatically in this position or at this intensity that is fitting for you. You won't go overboard if you can control the entire movement. And that's why I think the Nordic rolls are very good. Yes, I use some momentum, but now, especially with the running, I'm trying to minimize it. And I feel like, it will make the tendons stronger. It will make the knees stronger. It will, if you look at an exercise and think, that's bad for me, that's because you have a certain weak spot that you're avoiding. So look at the exercise. Why is it bad for you, right? Oh, it's bad for your knees. Perhaps that's because your knees are weak. Shouldn't you strengthen your knees? Shouldn't you be doing that exercise in a very light progression to make it stronger, right? And if you look at all of these weak holes in your body, these weak positions, and you try to patch them up one by one, eventually you're going to be way less prone to injury. That's the same thing that I'm right now realizing I have to do with my mobility. I realized during this morning's run, I was trying to basically amp up the speed, and I was noticing like, hey, my hips feel stiff. My hips are not mobile anymore like they used to be. And that's probably because I've been running more, but that also means that should I now avoid that movement? Should I now, stay away from it because it feels stiff, it feels awkward? No, it means that I should, target that particular range of motion that I'm weak in, that I'm not able to reach comfortably anymore. I should target it and try to regain it, because if I can do that, then my body will be more capable. In a literal sense, it will be able to do more, right? And it will allow me to stay injury-free, or it will at least reduce my risk of injury. If I can comfortably get into all of the positions that I need to run fast, because when you run fast, your one step is bigger than like slow running, right? You lift your legs higher, you push your legs back further. You need more mobility, right? But if I'm able to be comfortable in those positions, right, it's not going to be dangerous because I'm used to it, right? So when you look at an exercise and think to yourself, it's dangerous, right? First of all, imagine the exercise with correct technique, and if you then still think it's dangerous, try to patch up the weak holes that make it dangerous for you. But anyway, that's it for today's training. Very happy with how it went. I feel like it was, targeted to the purpose of running, which is exactly what I need. I didn't progress in any reps or sets on the pistol squat. I did progress on the Nordic rolls though, because my injury is feeling way better, so I'm happy with that. But anyway, like I mentioned in the beginning, I think I have to look at running or at progress, not only in the reps, sets, rest time, and weight, but also in just execution of the exercise, as the least amount of momentum possible, the most smooth movement possible, and so forth. So that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. And well, I guess I will catch you for another workout tomorrow, which will be skills. I'll see you then.